Welcome to Tim's Take. This is Tim Reinbott. I'm the Director of Field Operations and Communications, as well as the Assistant Director of Natural Resources at the University of Missouri. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Rasel Parvej. He is our State Extension Soil Testing and Interpretation Specialist, and you're still brand new. You've been here, what?
An year.
A year?
Yeah.
Wow, time flies, doesn't
Right.
it? It really does. It really does. And you came through us from Louisiana State.
Right.
So, but now you have your extension activities, of course, but it's also in charge of soil testing lab and the soil health assessment lab.
Mm-hmm.
And we may think, well, those are two separate things, but really they meld together very well now, don't they?
Right.
Right. So let's talk about soil testing first. We've been doing this for 75 years. Don't we know all about it now?
Probably not.
Probably not, no. There's a lot to know still.
There's a lot to know still. Now, one big piece is missing. We call it healthy soils, but people define healthy soils in many regards. But really the producer standpoint, the row crop producer especially, from their standpoint, they like to see healthy soils also produce, increase the production as well. So that relationship is still missing. So if you increase your health parameter or health indicator, can it translate into a grain production?
So you mean like more carbon in your soil and those things in microbiology, does that improve production?
Right. That's the correlation we are still looking for. Again, it doesn't mean healthy soil always produce, increase the production. That's the producer actually looking for.
Sure, that's why you sell it.
Yeah, and for example, in a droughty year, if you have a healthy soil that soil can hold more moisture, water holding capacity, well, it pays off in the droughty year.
Sure.
So it can hold water whenever it rains and probably feed the crop is longer time than an unhealthy soil that doesn't have that much capacity. So that pays off that particular year. But does it pay the healthy soil always translate into higher production? And that type of correlation work, we need to do more and more with the field setup, see how it translates into yield.
Sure. But even our basics of soil fertility, our phosphorus levels and potassium levels, pH and secondary nutrients and micronutrients, we're still tweaking those because our production systems are increasing, bigger demand. So we have to tweak our recommendations, don't we?
Yes. The recommendation is not set for decades, you know that. So it sets for a certain genetics. So looking at the yield level back 20 years, 30 years, we improved our yield, we improved our genetics that has a high demand of nutrition, right? So the recommendation got to change as we improve our genetics. So probably every decade you need to revise your recommendation. You need to do the field trial, check the correlation and calibration, and improve your recommendation as the yield increasing. For example, if the corn yields 20 years, 30 years back is 150 bushels, we are regularly producing these days 250 bushels around.
Right.
So there is a 100 bushels gap. Where that nutrition will come from?
Right. So, because you have it in your soil, maybe on your soil test, you don't necessarily is it available at that time.
Yeah, that's another part of that. The soil testing is very tricky. You're right. If you test soil in fall,
right,
and if you test soil in spring before you actually planting your crop and putting the fertilizer out, there is two different times. So soil test will be different. For example, we have tested 2 years in Louisiana, 2 years in Arkansas. This is 1 year we are testing in Missouri through Mid-South Soybean Board funded project. We are taking soil sampling right after corn harvest in fall every 15 to 20 days apart all the way to next season soybean planting. Or even it can be corn planting, whatever the rotation they are. So we have seen right after taking soil sample in fall versus before planting next season soybean crop, we see that 30 ppm potassium difference, almost 10 ppm phosphorus difference. How this happens? Well, you see the corn stalk has lots of potassium still remain in the stalk. Grain only takes up about 28 to 30% removes. So 70% remains in the stalk. As you have the rainfall through the winter period, if you have the tillage, it's going to incorporate all this straw nutrition back to the soil. That increases your soil test value.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
a part of the reason. Other reason would be your rainfall even. If you have more rainfall, it's going to release more. That going back to the question you asked, yes, there is a big difference. 30 ppm difference means it can put you from the medium to high zone, and you may not need a fertilizer requirement. So if you test your soil in fall, it may be in the medium zone. If you test in spring, it can be a optimum or high zone. That tells you do not need fertilization.
Sure. Yeah.
That saves money, saves environment if it is in terms of phosphorus.
Because that's the big thing you mentioned, saving money, because input costs are very
Really
high
high.
right now. And with runoff of phosphorus, even in no-till, phosphorus can run off, can't it?
Yes.
So speaking of that no-till, a lot of our recommendations were made under pretty heavy tillage. Now we're more no-till. That can make a difference too, can't it?
You're right. Also, the recommendation, how the land-grant university developed recommendation, we all take soil sample just before planting around and develop a recommendation based on. We put the fertilizer as a treatment at planting or before planting, right? How the production system happens. They put all the fertilizer, they test their soils in fall, they put all the fertilizers in fall. They have a longer gap between the crop production and fertilization, almost 5 to 6 months or 4 to 5 months at least. What's going to happen with that applied fertilizer? Either you said runoff would be the option. It could lease with the rainfall, like a potassium, for example. So looking at all these factors is very important to come up with a better recommendation plan. Giving back to your question about no-tillage system versus tillage, yes, if you develop your recommendation on the no-tillage or tillage system, how it translates to the tillage factor, because when you apply on the top of the ground, basically a surface broadcast, all the nutrients remain on the surface. But that phosphorus is a very slow-moving nutrient. So going back to the deeper soil profile, it takes time. We have seen in a no-tillage system, one of the big caveat about that, the top portion of the field, probably 0 to 4 inch or 0 to 6 inch, has a high phosphorus value. Below that 0 to 6 inch, there is a phosphorus deficiency. When the root hits that zone, they don't find phosphorus. How you manage that things? Sure. We have seen a research recently conducting in Auburn University. They push, or also the strip tillage system. You can put the fertilizer below zone a little bit, probably, I don't know the depth, could be below the 6 inch zones or within that. That's really helping, especially for phosphorus in a no-tillage system, because you are getting deficiency in below zone. So you have to take care of that zone. What's the best way to take care? You cannot till since it is a no-tillage.
Where like potassium will leach down.
Potassium is not that much problematic like a phosphorus, for example, because potassium is it's a cation, it's a positively charged cation. Clay is a negatively charged, it's supposed to attach, but potassium, we have seen potassium is still leaching down. And these days, another point is the philosophy of the fertilization. People always going for build and maintain philosophy. Right. They're going to build to a optimum zone, then maintain it. We have seen a long-term trial came from Ohio, There is some data from Arkansas. I did a few years research in Louisiana. We are not building potassium. Potassium is still leaching down. For example, the Ohio research showed if you put 3x rate, 2 to 3x removal rate, over 15 years, they did not see a soil test potassium value increase.
Really?
Yes.
It had to go somewhere.
It's still going down. So we have seen our soil in Louisiana, probably some soil in Arkansas. You're not really building potassium. Well, if you have a high CEC, like high clay content, yeah, that clay can hold the potassium. But think this way. Clay doesn't need that much potassium because it's a naturally fertile with potassium.
Right.
It already have a 200, 300 ppm potassium. Based on the recommendation, you do not need an extra potassium. So why would you build that potassium? Sure. So building potassium is a concept of either sandy loam to silt loam soil, right? That has a low CEC soil. Doesn't hold that potassium very well.
Like 12 and under.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Depends on 15. It could be sometimes.
Sure.
It's still classified as a silt loam soil. And again, looking at the silt loam is a big classification.
Yes, yeah.
It's a very wide classification with out of 12 different classification, right? So you need to pay attention what percent of clay in your silt loam soil has.
Yes.
If the clay percentage is a little higher, probably your CEC would be a little higher. Mm-hmm. If the clay percentage is really low, your CEC would be low. So going back to the potassium, building potassium, it's really, and with the commodity price you say these days, it's not really feasible. We did survey 2018 across all the land grant institute. Nevada did not participate. We have seen majority of the state lab or land grant institute adapting sufficiency philosophy. Means you just put the fertilizer, that's what the crop need for the particular year.
Okay.
You're not really building, focusing on.
Not building.
Yeah. But phosphorus you still can build, but building philosophy, people use that philosophy, building their phosphorus level to 200, 300, 400, that's 500 ppm. That's all itself a fertilizer.
Yeah.
And that's really hurting our environment, our water quality.
Sure. Sure.
So building something not always really you're looking for in terms of water quality, environmental aspects.
We know we've been looking at P and K a lot, and of course the soil pH, but the secondary like sulfur and our micronutrients, we really haven't paid much attention to.
That's right.
And before we came on, you were talking about that pH makes a big difference on the availability of these. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sulfur is already a fourth major nutrient, like a limiting nutrient for like crop production. So sulfur, if you look at the research that people conducted 20 years or 15 years back, they did not see a sulfur response. Mm-hmm. The reason behind when that Clean Air Act happened, we reduced the atmospheric sulfur deposition. I just showed yesterday for another presentation the sulfur reduction from 2002 to 2020 to over that period almost 90% atmospheric sulfur deposition. So if we are thinking about 2025, that reduction could be almost like almost 100%. We don't see any more sulfur deposition coming from atmosphere, either dry or through rainfall. So going back to the point, that's why people, when they did all the research 20 years back, still there was enough sulfur coming from atmosphere.
So we're getting rained on by sulfur.
Yes. So that's why they did not see a response. Also, there is another factor. For example, some fertilizer had the impurities of sulfur. Phosphorus is one of the example. So some of the sulfur coming from other fertilizer source as well, like phosphorus. So that's why you don't see a sulfur deficiency, because also plant doesn't need that much sulfur either. Now we conducted research like 2 years, 3 years. We have seen such sulfur deficiency, sulfur response. It's not a big response like a potassium or phosphorus. For example, we conducted 50 trials in Louisiana. We have seen around 10 trials responded, but 5 trials is really responded to sulfur. Other 5 trials is barely responded to sulfur. But what I'm saying, the sulfur response is there. It's not fake. It's true. Going back to the point, how much sulfur we need? We don't need that much. 20 to 30 pounds, depends on your soil test value, would be sufficient. So pay attention to your soil test. One of the biggest gap we have with our lab, Missouri Soil and Plant Analysis Testing Lab, sulfur wasn't included in the basics test. So when you tested soil, almost 20,000 a year or 20 to 30,000 a year, we do not have a data of sulfur. We don't know the state level. I just analyzed last 6 years data for P and K. I was also looking for sulfur, every county level. There is not enough sulfur request, so we really don't know the status of Missouri soil, what the sulfur levels are. But most of the soils you would think about is deficient because you are not also building sulfur. Sulfur acts like a nitrogen. It's very leachable, so you cannot build your
in the topsoil.
In the topsoil, you cannot really build the sulfur concentration.
Would you, if we want to put sulfur down, is the elemental sulfur or something like a sulfate form, like a potassium sulfate or ammonium sulfate? Is one better than the other?
Great question. Great question. If I say one better than other, probably I'm giving some benefit of the some company.
Oh,
but,
sure.
But that's not the point. We tested actually 6 different products. One of my master's students worked for 2 years. All products work. All products at the same time don't work. But it depends on the situation. I'm giving you that. Elemental sulfur is one of the great source of sulfur. But elemental sulfur goes through the oxidation process before it releases the sulfate, the available form of the plant uptake. And that takes time. So if you put, for example, most of the people put the sulfur in season, like in the flowering stage for soybean or before tasseling for corn, they might not see a benefit of putting out elemental sulfur. You have to put out before planting to give the fertilizer enough time to go through that microbial oxidation process and release the actual sulfate sulfur for plant uptake. If you put gypsum, it's a great source of sulfur. It's an old fertilizer, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I was in first year college student, I learned the source of fertilizer for phosphorus, potassium, sulfur was one of them.
Yeah.
And gypsum, I remember that name still. That's old fertilizer. Great product. It has 17% sulfur, 23% calcium, and it's a plant available form, sulfate form. Whenever you apply, you see the sulfur coming out with the fertilizer. And the timing of this fertilizer, if you put pre-plant also in season, both time it works. Another big source of sulfur is ammonium sulfate.
Yes.
Corn loves that because it has nitrogen, it has sulfur. Soybean, for example, it produces your own nitrogen. If you put ammonia, it translates into nitrate. Ammonium doesn't hurt nosulation. Nitrate does. Think about the temperature you're putting out. If you put out in southern soil, or the temperature gets higher in March, April, the transformation from ammonium to nitrate is very fast. So we did test that product in Louisiana, and we have seen a yield drag, 3 bushels, 2 to 3 bushels yield drag. It wasn't statistically significant, but we see a consistent yield drag of 2 to 3 bushels. So
From losing the nitrogen?
For the nitrogen hurting nosulation.
Oh, hurting the nodules.
Nosulation
yes,
in soybean. from the ammonium sulfate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a research in Indiana with the Purdue University. They have seen a great response of ammonium sulfate for soybean. Well, the temperature in Indiana and Louisiana is cooler. Probably that process of transformation from ammonium to nitrate did not occur that fast, and plant can take either ammonium form or nitrate form.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the nodulation did not hurt the same rate is hurted in Louisiana. So it depends on, again, that I said, product always works with the environment.
Sure.
Or the timing would be, or the environmental situation. So going back to that product, if you put in Louisiana, probably that's not a best product for soybean as a sulfur source. Gypsum would be always the best product. There are other products about sulfur. K-Mag has a potassium and sulfur.
Right.
Two are big nutrient. So that has the added advantage having a potassium in it.
And magnesium.
And magnesium, for
Yes,
example.
yes.
We are not deficient in magnesium, but it can be another point. Some other company product coming with polyphore, they call it. It still is the same as it has a potassium and sulfur, obviously. I don't know it has a calcium or not, but I don't remember. Polyphore, there is other sulfur product that has a potassium and sulfur as well.
And sulfate.
Yeah, in a sulfate form.
But now, if you want to use elemental, you need to put that in the spring.
Yes, it's early season because you even if the northern soil has a more temperature limited, so it's that oxidation process needs temperature, rainfall. That's the big two things, and time, obviously.
Right. But it would be available then maybe as a sulfate form at tasseling in corn or
yes. If you put early in the season, don't expect to get yield response when you put in season.
Sure. And the end product on sulfur is amino acids, of course, and that's proteins and.
I try to convince producer, hey, look, if we put sulfur out, even though it's not going to give you the yield benefit, but it's increase your protein concentration, the quality of the grain. Well, one of the response I got. Is we're not getting paid for the quality.
Right. Yeah.
So producer always going after yield. I don't know how much quality we deteriorate over time.
But maybe if you're feeding that grains to your own animals,
right,
then you may be more worried about the quality.
That's right. And you are getting back that meat to your body. That means the human nutrition. It's the soil nutrition going translate to the human nutrition. Yes. That's one of the point. But again, the quality probably we need to think about increasing not only production, but also quality and giving the benefit to the producers so they can pay attention to the quality as well.
Pay them for the quality.
Yeah.
All right.